Our generation will soon be voting, and if most of us are ignorant about economics, what kind of laws do you think they'll be supporting? We need to get them first so we can create a generation of voters who understand free market economics.
Here's a cool trick to help you get maximum value out of your children. All you've got to do is make sure that their understanding of everything they learn is exactly the same as yours. Or even better, a more extreme version. Then, try to make sure their opinion, based on that understanding, aligns with your opinion too. Really keep them on a tight ideological leash. If you manage to pull it off, then congratulations. Boom. You just got another vote, and every little gremlin you pop out and indoctrinate on top of that is another extra vote. Based on the cringy, creepy little promo clip I played part of at the start of this video, that seems to be the idea behind the Tuttle Twins books, an unsettling series of children's literature I came across the other day that has a very obvious objective. One of the main images on their site's homepage gives away the perspective you'll be inculcating your kids with. The picture promises to teach your kids liberty and features Congress flying skull and crossbones. Perhaps the swarm of people at the bottom is some sort of anarcho-capitalist anti-state army. What did you learn about today, kids? Sedition! The first book, intended for children aged 5 to 11, presents ideas from Bastiat's The Law by continuing this imagery. Here's a sample page from their site. "Remember my question about your police officer uncle taking my tomatoes for Mrs. Lopez?" Fred responded. The twins nodded. It was always wrong to steal, they remembered. Just like that, the bad guys in government take my things and give them to others without my permission. Sometimes they take my things to keep for themselves or give away to their friends instead of helping the needy, Fred told them. "They sound like they're pirates," Ethan said, imagining Fred walking the plank at the point of sword. Fred chuckled. "Yes, Ethan. Pirates steal things. That's called plunder. And when bad guys in government do it, we call that legal plunder." Hardly purely informative, is it? Sure, it puts across the ideas from the work, but what do you think the outcome of telling someone as young as 5 that the government is basically a bunch of pirates who want to come after their stuff is going to be? Granted, it will probably be the outcome the author wants, but I wouldn't call it education. Why don't they go ahead and make it into a musical while they're at it? "Yar har fiddle-dee-dee, taxation is theft and I'm coming for ye." The third book in their series, Tuttle Twins and the Creature from Jekyll Island, is probably going to have kids up at night crying in fear that the Federal Reserve might be hiding under their bed. I get that it's a reference, but 5-year-olds aren't going to know that. Look at this! What I'm learning is that inflation's the libertarian version of hellfire. "Jimmy, eat your greens or the Treasury's going to start printing $1 million bills." I actually purchased and downloaded the activity booklet that accompanies this story, and it's all these exercises to show how scary the Federal Reserve is, and repetition of the message that it's a monster that steals. This colouring in picture is pretty awesome though. I can imagine after using this, a parent wakes to the sound of their child screaming in the night and runs into the kids' room to find "End the Fed" written on the walls 1,000 times in crayon. The second book in the series, which is based on the essay I Pencil, sticks out like a sore thumb between books 1 and 3 because, based on the sample pages they provide, it seems a little less like it's pushing a perspective so blatantly. But we'll get back to that soon. At the start of this video, I talked about turning your kids into ideological clones of yourself. I don't like people doing that, but what can you do? It's done by every sort of person, and you can't go invading homes or anything. Plus, kids are obviously going to copy their parents anyway, even without a conscious effort to get them to conform. This project aims to not let the walls of ANCAP parents' homes contain it though. They're going for indoctrination without borders.
We need to get these books into schools. That's where you come in.
Our dad runs a non-profit organization, Libertas Institute, that teaches people about the free market, and they've created a lesson plan to help teachers explain their economic ideas to their students. Any teacher can sign up!
And we're going to send them books for every student to keep.
There are tens of thousands of kids who are going to participate in this program.
Already, this effort of theirs is off to a good start, with 108 people contributing over $8,000 to their cause. Incredible! Just amazing how much people care about kids being properly informed. Because that's how this is being pitched, right? help kids learn what they'd usually miss out on. Sure, that's part of what they're selling, but I think the willingness to shell out cash has more to do with this part of the promo vid.
Kids are not taught economics in school. No wonder so many people thought that Obamacare was a good idea.
That also explains why most millennials voted for socialism in the recent election.
It's not their fault that they don't understand. They were never taught.
It's time to fix that.
With their goal being so obvious, how the hell is this gonna fly? I can't imagine this getting into schools. Based on reading some more, looks like they can't either. At least, not the full series of books. The second book, the one I mentioned, the one that's just about explaining free markets, being less heavy-handed than the other books, was likely a strategic decision, as they explain in their FAQ section. While other books in the Tuttle Twins series have a political theme, property rights, individual liberty, protectionism, etc., this book is apolitical. Yeah, don't push it too far, mate. And focuses on the mechanics and nature of a free market. It is something that would be appealing to people of varying political views, allowing us to more easily spread it through the school system. I love that, even in their own eyes, it's an attempt at infiltration and subversion. It's not that it's more suitable for young children, it's that this is the one that will be easier to spread. Which brings us to another thing I just love. Connor Boyack, the book's author, appeared on something called the Anarchast, and the host nailed what these books are all about doing. What they're meant to be used for. So, to be clear, this isn't the author, it's the guy who was interviewing him.
And what you've shown with this is that you found a way to get this information out to people who wouldn't otherwise get this information, and you're actually doing it in a really interesting way. I never even thought about this sort of concept before, of getting sort of to their kids, which is what the government does, right? They've been doing this for like centuries or millennia. The church as well, you know, like they try to get them really young and get them into something, like before they can even really figure out what's going on, they've got them pretty much believing in something, no matter whether it's true or not. And so yeah, we have to go after the kids too, I guess.
Yep, nailed it. I could just have this instead of my video. Perfect, mate. You got it. That's what it is. Done.
And not that we're going after them. We're trying to enlighten them, trying to help them to understand what's really going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's totally different when it's you doing it. By the way, another question the people behind the Tuttle Twins books are unsurprisingly often asked is if they're worried about indoctrinating children. Their answer is amazing. Indoctrination means to teach something without any critical analysis, especially to a child who hasn't yet fully developed the ability to think critically. This is already being done in most schools. Children are taught ideas quite contrary to freedom and free markets, and contrary views, such as those we espouse, are not introduced or allowed to compete. And so that's what we'll do. We will compete. Alongside other material and perspectives being introduced to the child, we will ensure that an alternative voice is presented, not one that is pro-regulation and pro-central planning, but one that is pro-liberty. The answer's not no, or that this isn't indoctrination, or that they're being careful, but that they're doing counter-indoctrination. Which I guess is meant to remove all concerns. Don't encourage critical thought, just bluntly hammer a wider variety of stuff into kids' heads. I'm not surprised, and it makes sense, because they're all about winning and shaping the future to their preference, kids just being a means to that end. But fucking hell, I'm just not capable of getting behind that. Plus, there is more to it than that. The implication there is sort of that it's not indoctrination because it's not just their stuff being pushed onto kids. To be fair, there is something to that. You could certainly argue that teaching contrasting perspectives will naturally lead to critical analysis by way of kids seeing these views clash and trying to weigh them against each other. Cool. However, here's a little clip of the book's author from that podcast I showed you a moment ago.
So I myself am a father of 2 young children, and we do kind of a combination between homeschooling and unschooling.
So, how is it not a tool of indoctrination in that circumstance? Plus, on his personal YouTube, he says he made the books because he was looking for something that would help him pass his values to his kids and couldn't find it.
So I've got a couple little kids, and a few years ago I was looking on Amazon to try and see if there were any books that would teach my children the principles that I believe in. Individual liberty, free markets, private property, the things that have made America great. And I was disappointed and surprised. There was literally nothing.
Not to say he can't try to clone himself via his kids if he wants to, but how is that not indoctrination? And again, according to the author, other homeschoolers were aggressively targeted with marketing. If your response to a suggestion that is indoctrination is that it will be competing with other ideas taught uncritically in schools, that doesn't apply to a homeschooling environment, does it? I've always thought an upside to homeschooling would be that you could avoid this kind of material that puts too much effort into persuading kids. Here's an interesting clip from the Mises Institute called Raising Libertarian Kids, featuring the author of the books.
We started doing some aggressive marketing to homeschool families specifically. And so think of your average homeschooling mom, she's not libertarian. She's maybe a little freedom-minded, independent thinking by virtue of the fact that she, decided to shoulder the education of her children on her own shoulders. She's never read Busted. She's never heard of the guy. And so here she finds this book because she knows freedom is important. She says, I'm going to get this book. My friend recommended it to me. They start reading. And as they start reading, it's opened up all sorts of discussions that we're hearing about that are just fascinating. So if a child, in one case we heard, is reading a book and they say, well, if it's not okay to take things from other people, then why are taxes okay? And suddenly the parent is on the defensive trying to figure out a logical response to that question asked by their 7-year-old.
I'm looking forward to the libertarian version of Village of the Damned. We're going to start hearing stories of how all the children in a town started crying one night and telling their parents it's because taxation is theft at the same time. I swear. This is like treating a tumor by growing another one on the opposite side of your body. Gee, thanks for this second cancerous growth. It was getting awkward to walk around with only one side of my body hideously deformed. Now I finally have balance. Whether what you're spreading is right or wrong, good or bad, no matter who it is using it, this method creeps me out. I mean, I don't have a problem with the books themselves, of course, but their intended use is so fucked up. What they're designed to be a tool for. Turning your kids into a tool themselves for crafting the future you want. Presenting something to kids in the hopes that no counterpoint is going to be presented to them, because they're at a point where they're not going to be able to formulate that themselves. Certainly wouldn't call it child abuse, but it is, in my eyes, an abuse of the relationship parents or teachers have with a child. Instead of using the authority they have to help a child understand things, it's used to push the adoption of a viewpoint in order to achieve a future political goal. And it is done exactly this way, deliberately, not just as a result of children copying those they look up to, as they tend to do. I really hate that. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.